HTC has launched the huge Titan, a brushed aluminium Windows Phone Mango device with a monstrous 4.7-inch Super LCD screen. Other specs are kept on the 2011 bandwagon with 8-megapixel camera, including HTC's new improved sensor, yes, at last, a 1.5 GHz processor, 16 gig of internal storage, 768 megabytes of RAM, the other usuals, plus a 1650 mAh battery. The Titan will need it with that screen size, though. There's also the smaller Radar with a 3.8-inch screen but similar internal specs, also styled in LE. If you thought the Titan was large, you'll be shocked by the Samsung Galaxy Note running Android 2.3 with a 5.3-inch WXGA, that's a 1280 by 800 pixels, Super AMOLED screen. It's the point at which I cry enough is enough and refuse to cover it, to be honest. Even Samsung acknowledge it's more of a tablet by providing a stylus and equipping it with a 2500 mAh battery. This is getting silly. Plus every other gadget under the sun based on a 1.4 GHz dual-core processor, a 16GB internal disk, 2011 specs, and a 1080p video camera. Simply shocking, or simply brilliant. I'm lost for words. What do you think? Also from Samsung are a batch of new Bardar-based smartphones. Well, I say smartphones, but as a smartphone OS, it's not made much of an impact. More a high-end feature phone, I reckon. The Wave 3, Wave M, and Wave Y all run Bardar 2.0 and have a 4-inch, 3.7-inch, and 3.2-inch screen, respectively. Something for everyone. Overall specs are low-end, maxing out at WVGA, and a 5-megapixel camera on the most expensive, the Wave 3. Of note is that the M includes NFC, and that they all have Wi-Fi and chat-on built in. Sony Ericsson has announced an upgraded ARC, the Xperia ARC S, with a faster 1.4 GHz processor and a novel 3D, quote, sweep panorama camera unit. You just sweep round slightly when taking photographs, take multiple images, and the software crunches the differences to work out what's where in the 3D image, kind of turning the perspective inside out, and you then have to view the images on a 3D compatible TV. Surprisingly, it does kind of work. I tried out some of the example images. 3D on phones, though, is a subject I'll be returning to shortly on the Phone Show. Symbian OS, its devices and its ecosystem have been a bone of contention for many for several years now, with both rabid evangelists for its power efficiency and multitasking prowess and harsh critics proclaiming it to have an old and outdated user interface. The thing is, both sets of people are right. Symbian OS does still have the best handling of hardware resources in a phone, and it will facilitate lasting longer on a charge than any other mobile OS. And the critics are right too. The S60 one-handed UI, wonderfully efficient on D-pad-driven phones from 5 years ago. Here are a few examples. The N95 and the N82 has been taken rather clunkily into the world of touch. Many would argue that a totally new user interface should have been applied, along the lines of what the N900 had, or the N9 is currently getting, perhaps. Nokia chose to adapt the one-handed UI by adding a touchscreen layer at first, and gradually adding enhancements like kinetic scrolling and multi-touch. It's been a long, slow road, and not helped by the use of resistive touchscreens for the first generation Touch S60 devices. Resistive is great for tapping and horrible for swiping and scrolling. So there were built-in limitations in the technology there. We've now had Symbian Anna release for all current Symbian 3 phones, adding a bit more swipiness and a slightly better web browser. But it's still S60, as you know and love or hate it most of the time. Symbian Bell is hailed as the next great thing with an Android-like swipe-down notifications bar. It's the fashion, you know. Go ask Apple. And a complete revamp of the UI, including getting rid of that horrible legacy options menu displayed on every single screen. Bell is due for release with new devices next month and as an update for existing ones by the end of the year. So where does that leave Symbian as a mobile ecosystem? Huge sales from 2007 to 2010 mean that there are still at least 300 million, yes, that's a third of a billion, active Symbian smartphone users out there across the world. That's a heck of an addressable market, which is why Nokia's Ovi store is not doing too badly. The February announcements about Nokia's future from 2012 with Windows Phone was a bit misleading in that, as we've seen, updates are continuing to Symbian. We've had 3 new Bell smartphones announced 2 weeks ago, with more due, no doubt, at Nokia World next month, and I'll be there to report back. But all actual OS development has now been effectively siloed off, with the Symbian guys now part of the huge Accenture outfit. So at some point, Symbian updates will wind down, though Nokia do apparently intend to support the OS until 2016. As the astute phone show viewer will know, despite the somewhat creaking software UI, do keep saying some nice things about Symbian powered devices, and Nokia do keep cranking out neat hardware and various tech innovations. You'll remember this, the C7, which I reviewed back in Phone Show 126. Update, it now has NFC, near field communications, enabled. It always had the chip and antenna. Now it's fully enabled in software with Symbian Anna. So it joins a select group of current smartphones which can also exchange information via NFC. The C7 also has an FM transmitter built into the backplane, something which I overlooked in my original assessment. It's now renamed Play via Radio in Symbian Anna. It's a great way to get your tunes and podcasts onto your car's big speakers. The result of all this, well, my verdict on the C7 just went up a few notches, definitely into the recommended range. You'll also remember the X6 back from early 2010. Here's a beautiful white and blue example I picked up in mint condition for £90 from eBay. Great bargain. Capacitive screen, decent battery, and monster loudspeakers. Here's a bit of a demo. Just about the loudest and highest quality loudspeakers on any phone out at the moment. Nokia has been carrying on updating the software of phones like these. Many already have the browser and other under-the-hood improvements from Symbian Anna, plus the latest Obvium apps and more, and all for free. The support for these older Symbian phones is really quite impressive and makes for real bargains like this X6, which put the £500 super phones of this age to shame in terms of bang per buck, certainly. In summary, Symbian is definitely in its twilight years. Every mobile OS has a natural life cycle, and Symbian's is winding down. But like many pensioners these days, there's no reason why it can't have a last golden year or two, all the while it observes the younger, more sprightly competition. Some other tech pundits wrote Symbian off years and a few 100 million devices ago. They were wrong back in 2008. They were wrong in 2009, despite Nokia's own goals and the RAM and user interface stakes. And even today in 2011, I contend it's still too early to actually plant Symbian's gravestone. Nokia's happy because it's got the super slick Windows Phone to help craft for the future. The tech pundits will be happy because they'll be proved right 3 years after the fact. And I'm happy because I've still got my precious Nokia N8 filming this to capture and facilitate my life. Smiles all round then, and definitely no funeral yet.